for whatever reason, let's see if Rumble stays on. Okay, sorry about that delay. I will have to add an intro to the video here later. But anyway, if you read what it said on there, yeah, so I haven't been here for a week because I had a emergency and I need to mute my phone because my phone is going to go off constantly, and that's obnoxious as all can be. So I wasn't here because I had a bit of an emergency, and I ended up in the hospital. So I am going to, for just a very brief moment, I'm going to turn this over to um, my husband here. He is on with me today, but I am going to turn it over to my hubby so he can share with you kind of where this started on Thursday night. Well, I'll tell you where it started on Thursday night. I did my show last Thursday, and everything seemed to be fine. You can't hear?
Everything's pretty mute.
Okay. How about now?
That's a lot better.
That's better. Okay. So needless to say, he probably
don't take my thunder away.
Probably before you do that, go change camera 3 to the both of us, because camera 3 is only on me because I turned that sucker, so it needs to go a little bit differently so you can actually be in the camera as well. Let's see, that'll probably work right there. So yeah, not to take his thunder, but what the part of the thunder that I'm going to take from you is that one, I can't read that if it says manual. Can you fix that real quick? But after my show last Thursday, I was fine. I came upstairs and I was fine. I wasn't having any issues at all. I felt fine. I hadn't eaten anything, so I was a bit on the hungry side, and I wasn't ready to eat anything at first. But I was getting just this little pain right here under my breast and a little bit above, and it was kind of tight around, and it was uncomfortable. But that was like about it. I told my husband, I said, yeah, I got this pain and it doesn't feel very good. And I said, I just don't really feel like eating yet. I'll eat in a few minutes. So I waited. He ended up going to bed because he was obviously tired. So he went to bed, and because he went to bed, let me make sure volume is off on this stupid thing, because I don't want to hear it, obviously. So he went to bed, and I stayed up, and I was going to just go make a sandwich. And then I didn't even have the energy to make a sandwich. I felt really like, ugh, I don't even want to go make a sandwich. I got hair in my eyes. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to have a quick bowl of cereal. So at least I have something. I'm just going to eat a bowl of cereal. So I ate a bowl of cereal, and then probably about 10:30 or so, I tried to go to bed, tried to lay down, had some pain, and it was getting worse and getting worse. And it was getting really bad. And I was laying there going, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And then I had this nagging feeling, and it was like a voice in my head just kept repeating over and over, you need to go to the hospital. 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 So I got up out of bed, and I quietly went to the closet and got dressed, got my clothes, got my purse, got a water bottle. And I went over and woke up my husband at that point. That was about 10 minutes to 1 or so.
Yeah, about that. And she has the nerve to say, don't worry about it. I just want to let you know I'm taking myself to the hospital. I'm like, you're what? No, you're not taking yourself to the hospital.
Well, okay. My reason for it too, though, is that you had a really big thing going on at work. It was really
Right.
important.
Yeah.
And I knew how important this project he's been working on. He's been working on this project for months at work. And it's to the point where they're kind of turning it over to the powers that be to review and reflect and make sure everything is right before they present it, which is here any day, right?
Yeah, we have a prep tomorrow, and then the main presentation. Well, the main update is on Wednesday. So yeah,
I'm not going to say a whole lot about what my husband does, but he is in a very important position with Department of Defense, and he works directly for some major powers that be. So
we'll leave it at that.
we'll leave it at that. But anyway, so it was a big presentation, and I was just really trying to be understanding and thoughtful that you had a big thing going on, and I didn't want to mess that up for you. You'd worked on it for quite some time. So anyway, I wake him up.
So anyway, so we get that settled that there's no way in the world she's taking herself to the hospital, and that I am going to take her to the hospital. So we do that. We get the dogs all situated because, of course, we've got the two dogs, and I'm not just going to have them run amok. So we get loaded up and take her to the hospital. Get there, and of course, right away, they classify it with chest pains, which
Well, as I described that I felt like there was a belt or a band around my chest up here and below that was just somebody that was just cinching it
just
tighter and
tightening
tighter
and
and tighter, and it hurt so bad. But all the pain was over here on my left side, all of it. There
Right.
was no pain on my right, no pain on my belly, no pain anywhere on my gut, no pain anywhere except for my upper chest and around and in my back. Nothing in my arms, nothing like that.
Right. So
but
didn't really radiate out or anything else. So Tori was a paramedic. I was an EMT. This is a long time ago. However, a lot of that stuff doesn't
and what
change.
what are paramedics good for?
Well, paramedics save lives, and EMTs save paramedics. So point in case.
He loves to point that out all the
Point
time.
in case right here with this little
Ding-a-ling.
little adventure. We'll put it that way. So we get there, and luckily it was pretty quiet. There wasn't a whole lot. There were like two other people that were in the waiting room before we got there and stuff like that. And we go up there, and Tori lets the triage know this is going on. This is what I'm feeling, stuff like that.
And I'm giving vitals
right.
like somebody
giving,
who knows.
Yeah, she's giving some
something.
information right off the bat that is pertinent and really beneficial to them to have up front. So right away they call for an EKG, of course, because as soon as you start
before
talking
that, even I'm gonna just give a really big shout out. I've heard some really bad things about our local hospital, and I'm gonna give a shout out right away. They didn't say, okay, we'll wait a minute for triage. Go sit down. Somebody will be with you in a minute. They immediately took us back
right
to
away.
a room immediately and started a cardiac workup.
Right. They started so they did the EKG, they established a line, they took blood and all that stuff so they could start getting all that blood work taken care of and get things moving along and stuff like that. And they moved right along quickly. Again, like I said, they weren't super busy, so obviously I'm sure that was helpful, but that
Right.
they still, again, they at least really kind of gave the due diligence of what was being presented to them. So we're in there for a fair amount of time, not too bad,
Yeah,
but a fair amount of time.
They got a full blood workup, blood panel done.
Got all that stuff back, and everything was coming back pretty good, and everything's not looking too bad and stuff like that. And they're just going to go and kind of keep an eye on her for a little while. And the typical.
My heart rate was going into the 60s.
You were 70s
and
and some of the 60s. When you first got there, your BP was a little bit elevated, so they gave you something to go and bring it down a little bit and stuff like that.
And my
everything else,
blood pressure is never elevated.
You're never high on blood pressure, so we're going through there. And
when
again,
I get sick, my blood pressure goes down.
Right.
I never get high blood pressure.
So we're sitting there, and again, with having some past medical, I pay attention to monitors because I kind of understand what different pieces do. I know what the PSO2 is, for what your blood oxygenation level is and stuff like that. And She was still on room air at the time, and she was doing all right on that. It wasn't great, but she was still in the 90s and that.
Yeah, like 91, 92.
91, 92.
You want to be at 95 and above
95 and
on
above
a
on
regular.
room air is pretty standard. So, but again, it wasn't alarming or anything else. And I would just kind of keeping an eye on her and stuff like that. And I would watch the monitor, and I would see her pulse start to drop and be going down into the 60s and
That's
stuff like
your
that.
heart rate.
And I would look at her, and I would say, it's starting to hurt again, isn't it? I could tell by looking at the monitor and watching her heart rate that the pain was increasing.
Yeah, and it was.
So there was
tremendously.
Right. So I was able to kind of keep monitoring that and keep watching that and stuff like that. And, we kind of let the nurse know that, that's something that we're keeping an eye on. And the nurse was off to another patient and was working in another room not too far away.
Shout out to Austin.
Yeah.
My nurse.
Excellent.
He was
excellent.
Absolutely amazing. I'm going to make him some brownies or cookies or a combination of and take him through there because he was an incredible nurse.
He did an awesome job. So we're going through there and we're just kind of keeping an eye on things. And I'm noticing that her heart rate is going down. And of course, I'm watching the monitors and talking to her and finding out, the pain is coming back and it's substantial. And they'd given her some meds for the pain. But because BP was all right, it wasn't a big deal with the meds, everything was fine. And I'm watching and the numbers are going down into the 40s. And I'm like, wrong. So I hit the call button for the nurse. And they said, of course, they come across the intercom. What do you need? I said, we need a nurse in here now. And so a nurse, not ours, but another nurse popped her head in. And I said, her heart rate is really dropping. Every time she has pain, her heart rate is really, really dropping. And I'm concerned. We need to go and keep an eye on this. She goes, okay, well, I'll let your nurse know. The typical response that you would get. So we're going through there and Austin pops his head back in and says, what's going on? I said, she's going down into the 30s, generally trying to say 50s, 40s, and down into the 30s. And I had sat her up and was kind of, because that was the way she was most comfortable. And I was just kind of rubbing her back a little bit, trying to go and ease her pain, making sure that she was comfortable as possible. And we're both standing there, one on either side of the stretcher. And Austin had turned around to do something momentarily. And all of a sudden, 0. Her heart rate went to 0, flatline. And of course, I'm like, what? And the thing is, just before that happened, heard like that snoring breath that people make
when they're taking their last breath.
So I heard that big sound, that big snore, and that got Austin's attention, and he spun around when we heard that, and then she flatlined.
I wasn't present.
my first reaction right away, of course, I grabbed the stretcher and I flattened her back out and lay her back because she was out. She was gone. And Austin's getting up there prepping to start doing compressions. And he went and called out for hands and crash cart and was ready to start doing chest compressions, and heart rate started coming back. I don't know. I'm thinking laying you back helped a lot.
Well, yeah, because that's the first thing you do.
Right.
You can't do chest compressions or anything on somebody. Again, I'm starting to shake.
Again, looking back at what was going on, laying you back probably was the best response based off of what we finally found out was going on.
Right.
So, and I'm not going to get to that part yet. So of course, everybody starts coming around and they ask me to step out. It's like, I got it. I was an EMT. I worked emergency medicine. I got it. So I stepped out into the hallway and they had a complete team.
Okay. So pause for just a moment. You had to step into the hallway. Of course, I'm out. They're prepping. They're putting the pads on for shock and all that stuff. And I am shaking a little bit right now because kind of reliving it is a little bit difficult. So when you had to step out into the hall, what were you feeling at that very moment?
Only because I had seen it go to 0 and then had come back up, I felt pretty positive that we were not in an immediate crisis to where I was gonna lose you. I was feeling pretty confident that we were not gonna
Now,
lose you.
right before that, how were you feeling?
Right when everything went flat, I was like, "What is going on? This is" I was scared shitless. I was scared to death. Um, did not wanna go and lose my babe, and that really was that that was a very, very scary moment, and, unsure of why, unsure of what was going on, what would cause this. Again, just really scared to death. So right away, um,
So now you're stepped out into the hall.
stepped out into the hall.
And I, when I was out, even though my heart rate had come back, so it was only like maybe 2, 3, 4 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
It wasn't 5 minutes or anything like that. It wasn't even a minute. I don't even think it was probably less than 10 seconds.
Probably somewhere around there.
But when I came to, he was already back in the room.
Right.
But I know that I was out unconscious enough time for the entire crash team to be in there, for everyone to be around me. And I finally woke up, and they both said it was a couple minutes that I was actually out, even though it was only 10 seconds or less that my heart rate had stopped. But that I was out for
you were in
couple minutes.
You were unconscious for a couple minutes. It took a few minutes before you came back around.
So by the time I come back around, I wake up and I'm laying flat in the bed, and I look up and there's a nurse next to me. There's nurses all around me. My husband is there, and I was told what happened, and of course it was pretty scary. And at this time, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I'm really scared. It's 2:30 in the morning. We got there about 1. This has been about an hour since we had gotten there. And of course my nurse says, "Well, you just earned a longer stay."
Yeah, you just earned a little bit longer visit.
Yeah, we're gonna be. He's like,
So
we were kind of
right
considering
away.
like there was nothing cardiac, so we were probably just gonna send you home with some meds and send you
Right.
home. At that point, there was nothing that was, the blood work
nothing
came
alarming.
back good. There was, they do an enzyme test on your blood that can tell them if you've had a heart attack. They did EKG, and they immediately did another EKG after this episode happened.
Another blood draw also,
and they did another blood draw,
and ran blood again.
and so at this point they are a lot more scared. And the doctor even came in, and he had already been in before, and he was like, "Well, I just, everything's looking good with your heart, so I don't understand what you're feeling and what this is geared towards." And I'm telling him where the pressure is, where the pain is, and it all says heart, but all the tests are saying the heart's fine.
Right.
He did say, "You scared the shit out of everybody." My nurse said,
including the doctor.
including the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor said, "You scared everybody, including me."
And then of course the nurse said, "You were completely white as a sheet."
Yeah.
Yeah, no color. And it took about 20 minutes or so for oh, it won't let her comment. I don't know, Donna. Try commenting on Facebook if you.
How about Donna call your cell phone?
Or Donna, you can call my cell phone, and I can actually bring you on.
Bring her on.
Donna is my best friend from California.
So we're sitting there, and I'm sitting there. Tori's laying there, and so they decide that they're going to run Tori down to CT. and they're gonna do a CT from.
So we're sitting there,
and I'm sitting there.
not that
Tori's
one.
laying there.
Hold on, just stop talking for
And
1 second.
so they decide that they're going to
have to get
run
won't
Tori
it-
down a CT,
Come on.
and they're gonna do a CT from.
So we're sitting there,
and I'm sitting there.
not that
Tori's
one.
laying
Okay, volume is off on there. Sorry.
there.
I hate that you can't just click the sound button on the side of Rumble. You have to actually go in and push the button, find the sound, and turn the sound off. It
Gotcha.
doesn't have just an automatic click on the screen. So anyway,
So they're gonna do this CT, from neck down to pelvis, and they're gonna do a complete CT
with
of
contrast.
with contrast.
So if
of
you don't
everything.
know some of this stuff, you need to explain
Right,
a little bit
so-
more, because some people don't have any medical training. So a CT, known as a CAT scan, is a scan that they can do of the body. And when they put contrast in, they put it through IV. It kind of tastes metallic, but what it does is it shows them where your blood is going, and it shows them where there
It shows
might
flow,
be
shows that
a
there's a blockage, stuff
or
like
a
that.
stop or something that might be having a problem. That's the whole point of doing a CT with contrast.
Right. I was actually thinking at one point, maybe blood clots or something like that was causing issues. Is one thing that was going through my mind, because Tori had them in the past, back when we were still in Reno.
Yeah,
So,
when I had COVID.
So
Thank you, COVID.
she had that. So I was wondering if that might have been something that may have been an issue. And but they're gonna send her down, and the nurse, Austin's right off the bat, like, you're not going alone, I'm going with you. So the nurse,
another shout out to Austin,
right
my
off the
nurse.
bat, was not just going to send her down there with a tech, which of course that's pretty standard. Everybody who's been in an ER knows, it's pretty standard. You're going to go to radiology. The tech from radiology just wheels you down there by themselves, and nothing to it.
Or whoever volunteer tech that they have can take you down there.
Austin's
they come back and get you and bring you back.
We're not going to leave you alone.
Yeah.
And he went down there with her.
And they sent me on the bed with a portable monitor, because he did not want, like, normally they unhook you from everything
and just send you down.
Unless you have an IV, they'll send the IV with you, but a lot of times they'll just disconnect your IV, not take it out, but they'll disconnect the connection to whatever you're taking. And then they'll just wheel you down there in a wheelchair. They usually get you out of the bed and put you in a wheelchair and take you down there. Sometimes they'll take you in the bed, but they usually disconnect all the monitors and all the stuff, and then they send you down there. And I'm not sure why I'm not getting comments. But if you comment on Rumble, I see it on my phone. If you comment on Facebook, it pops up here. It's supposed to on Facebook, but I'm not sure why it's not doing it. So if you put a comment, please do. Donna, if you're still listening, you can call, because my phone is Bluetooth connected to this thing, so I can actually let you say a piece or two, and then you can hang up. But anyway, so when they take you down there, you do have to lay in one of those machines. I'm not claustrophobic, so it never bothers me at all. I did get scared in there once, because I did have some severe pain starting again. I was getting nauseous. And right before this happened, I will tell you, so backing up just a little bit. Right before it happened, I was sitting up, and I wasn't sitting so upright, but I was leaned back in the bed, legs up. And I told my husband, I said, this pain is really bad. And I said, I don't feel good. And I said, I'm getting nauseous and I feel a little bit dizzy. And I was feeling very nauseous, and my mouth was salivating inside, like you're right before you're going to throw up. And okay, call whenever. So I saw like some stars. Like everything was blurry and some stars, and then it just kind of went black. And no, I didn't have an out-of-body experience. I didn't float over. I literally knew nothing until I woke up with all these people around me and all these lights. It was kind of like if you went like this for a second. It was like that, except for I don't have the other one. And no, they were not these lights, but it felt like this when I woke up, like it was just all these lights, and it was so bright, and there was so much going on, and so noisy, and so scary. And my husband looked pretty pale.
Yeah, I was
he
like I
was
said,
looking up that,
I was
but
pretty
he was
worried.
super positive and he was super helpful. So then we get down to CT, and I felt so relieved and safe knowing that my nurse was physically with me if something happened. And there was about 2 times that I was in the CT that I could feel it, and I knew I wasn't feeling good. I felt the pain, and I felt my heart rate dropping, and I felt the nausea and the salivating, and I was, like, about to yell something and say, I'm not doing okay," and then it kinda went away. It was like, and then it kinda just came back.
Yeah.
So it was very, very nerve-wracking. And then they get me back up to the room.
Yep. Come back to the room, and we're there, and the nurse has been very attentive, and we're not without people around.
I think every 30, 45 seconds he would walk by.
They
How
would
are you doing? Are you okay?
constantly checking, and stuff
Even
like
though he
that.
was
So,
doing other
yeah.
things, if he was on another patient, he was on his way by our room, he was poking his head in. We okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down. He was constantly checking, as were other nurses.
Right.
And the doctor had been in a couple of times actually.
Right.
So
And so we're going through there, and it wasn't too much later, and another tech shows up outside the door wheeling another cart, and it's like, okay. And I figured what it was pretty quickly. It was ultrasound.
yeah.
So now all of a sudden, we don't know what CT shows yet, but ultrasound.
Well, and prior to the ultrasound coming in, one of the things my nurse did say is, "Doc will be up to talk to you in a few minutes about your CT. I can't say anything."
Right. Yeah, and
And
that's pretty common.
we know that they can't. They're not the doctor. They're not allowed to give diagnoses. But I did say, "So they found something." And he's like, "Ask me that in a different way." I'm like, "So the doc's gonna come and tell me about what they found?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Right.
So, because they can't, they're not
right.
supposed to tell you.
That's not their wheelhouse as far as that goes. I mean, obviously it is, but again, just the way ERs and doctors' offices and stuff like that work. They, the nurses don't do that.
Doctors
Just
only
can't.
get so much thunder, so they
Right.
don't want a nurse to steal their thunder.
Right. So we're there, and the lady comes in and does an ultrasound and is doing her thing and stuff like that. And she was like, normally I would have you lay on your side and stuff like that, but she goes, I think I can get everything that I need without. So she did. So Tori didn't need to move around too much and really do anything, and they were able to do the complete ultrasound. Wasn't too long after that, the doctor came in, and we finally got some information. Finally got to the point where we could start figuring out what it was that was going on.
And
So,
and I will say, hold on one second. Hello, Donna. You're on the show too.
Hello, my dear.
Hi. How are
Hi,
you?
Steve.
hey Donna, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I don't really want to interrupt your story, but I was trying to comment through YouTube, and I think
we lost you for a second there.
Yeah, I think we lost Donna for a second. Well,
sounds like she's on the road.
She's on the road. Try calling back, and we'll do that again.
Well, we'll get you back on here, Donna.
Okay.
So the doc comes in, and is like, okay, so here's what's going on. The CT found that your gallbladder it appeared inflamed with a pretty good sized gallstone. And everybody's kind of like, all of this and gallstone did not exactly add up. You know, it didn't seem like what the connection was.
Right, for sure. Okay, there's Donna again.
Hello,
Here I am.
You've reached Woke 911.
I don't want to interrupt your story because I just think it's incredible, but I don't know if you heard what I was trying to say before we were disconnected.
No, we lost you.
Okay, so what I think is wrong, why I can't comment through YouTube, is because it is asking me to verify that the information that we are discussing is something that is okay, and it wants me to go through verification, which is odd. I've never had to do that before.
I've never seen that before.
So
that is absolutely retarded.
That's YouTube for
you.
It is.
Yeah. It's real. So yeah. Okay, YouTube.
And I think you have the authorization since it happened to you.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So maybe it was just a topic that would be sensitive to listeners.
Oh, but it's a reality. So
well, and I think it's a good lesson to anyone viewing too.
Yeah. Well, what I was trying to comment, and I don't want to, like I said, interrupt your story. I want to finish hearing it. But Steve, and Tori, just sitting there listening to your husband tell you what his version of what he experienced, and it was about you. I mean, it's just surreal.
It really is.
To think that you are here.
I am so grateful. That's all I can say. And listening to him, we've talked a lot about it, but it was different listening to him telling the story.
Yep.
And sharing it publicly because my eyes are tearing up and I'm shaking because it was a terrifying experience.
Absolutely. And Steve, you had to put aside the husband hat and go in EMT mode and not
and Donna,
take it so personal. Yes, it's my wife. Yeah.
Right. That's just it. And Tori and I have talked a lot. You know, we both know that we both have morbid sense of humor because of what we've done through our lives. I was an aircraft firefighter for the Marine Corps for 12 years.
And yes, he has dealt with responded
to some pretty serious situations, and it definitely kind of, I don't know, dulls the senses or something. I don't know exactly how to put it.
And there is a reason why they say not to work on your family members because it makes them real.
You get emotionally involved.
Emotionally involved because it is easy to separate when they're not related to you.
Right. When it's not your family member, it's just a body with an issue that you have to deal with.
Well, and I know that even our morbid sense of humor, Donna has been in law enforcement as well, so she understands it, and she has a sick, morbid sense of humor like I do. I mean, when I first finally was able to call and talk to Donna on the phone, and I told her what happened and how scared I was and stuff, the first thing both of us said is, she said, well, Kristen kicked your ass out and said, you can't fucking come up here right now. I'm not ready for you.
Right. You know,
and we both started laughing at that.
It's not your time, bitch.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and it's one of those things where I don't know. I just, and in some ways I feel bad that I wasn't more emotionally, affected by it, but
I wasn't either. Like when I came to, I wasn't. No. I mean, I was when I talked to my son.
Yeah.
When I talked to Sam on the phone and Andy and I was really not good when they called Shane, but I was able to say I love you and he could hear that. But I was pretty emotional when I talked to the boys because, at that very moment, I didn't know if this was going to happen again. And if I was never going to talk to my sons ever again.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was, I'm not kidding you, people. It was so scary. And I mean, now you're watching it and you can say, oh, well, you're fine. Why are you crying? Because reliving it and thinking through that when you come that close to not being here anymore, it really makes you think about your
It puts your life in perspective.
right. Like
we don't know how much time we have.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there are people who have lost their parents and their children at a young age, their parents at a young age, someone that says my dad had a heart attack at 46 or, something like that. So it does put your life in perspective, and it makes you think about what changes you want to make, what future you want to make. And of course, at this time we were just learning that it was from the gallbladder.
Right.
And that's why I'm really doing
And-
this story more than anything else, because
well, let me go this route. Okay. Here's some of the pieces to think about. People say, well, I had a gallbladder, that had to be taken out. And a lot of people are like, it's not a big deal. However, it can be. It's not something to just ignore. And that's what, some people just kind of, shrug off, pains and shrug off, something doesn't feel right and stuff like that. And sometimes you got to really listen to your body, got to really listen to what your mind is telling you that, hey, you really need to get this checked out.
Well, and let me interject for a second too, because knowing me, me, I'm not a let's go to the hospital type of person.
No,
I am not that way.
No,
I'm fine. I'll be fine. It's probably this. I self-diagnose. Well, you're not supposed to do that. But I do not go run to the doctor. You have to forcefully drag me to the doctor. Donna knows this because she'll tell me you need to go to the doctor. But Donna can shut up and put her fucking foot in her mouth, because Donna will do the same thing, and I have to tell her you need to go to the damn doctor.
Right.
I'm going on Tuesday.
So,
oh wait, that's tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, tomorrow.
Yeah, hello.
So when I wake my husband up saying I'm taking myself to the ER, he knows
hence my comment,
there must be something wrong.
Hence my comment, no, you're not taking yourself, because I know that's not the norm.
And of course he asked.
Yeah, if it was serious, I wouldn't be going. Or if it wasn't serious, you wouldn't be going.
And she wouldn't
so,
be waking me up to go to the ER
Right.
anyway. And he did ask, like, what's wrong? And I said, I think I'm having a heart attack.
Right.
And he was like, oh, like he was half asleep when I first woke him up, and he was just kind of like dazed and like, what's going on? He was getting out of bed right away, but he was still kind of until he said, what's going on? And I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And he was like wide awake and throwing clothes on. And I was all ready, because I had secretly gotten all ready beforehand. And I don't know if it was my guardian angel. I don't know if it was Kristen next to my bed that was whispering in my ear, you need to go to the doctor. You need to go to the hospital. Because I wasn't saying it. It was being said in my head to me from somewhere else. And so I don't know if it was God. I don't know if it was my angel. I don't know if it was my dad. I don't know if it was Kristen. I don't know who it was, but somebody wouldn't stop. And it was just literally a repeat of, you need to go to the hospital. You need to go to the hospital. You need to go, like on a loop. And until I got out of bed and started getting dressed and going to go to the hospital, it would not stop.
Right.
So somebody was there telling me, girl, you need to take this seriously.
Right.
I'm learning that as we get older in age, we really need to listen to our bodies, because the littlest things that were so irrelevant and unimportant back then affect us differently where we're at in our lives now.
Right.
And
don't I know
especially that inner voice. Yeah, that inner voice, Tori, that you kept hearing. I mean, you ignored it once or twice, but when you realized there was something going on, I'm so happy the events happened the way they did, and that you were well enough and smart enough and wise enough to get yourself to the doctor. And thank God, Steve, you were home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you think
That you
about
weren't traveling.
exactly, because he travels for work sometimes. And, you know, I mean, like our best friend Kristen's celebration of life is coming up here on May 17th. And the day after her would have been her 53rd birthday. And we didn't need it to be a twofer.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, we're planning to have a little fun
Amen.
when we go out there, and I'm going out to see Donna, and I'm going early and leaving after. So we're planning on having a little fun together, and it wouldn't have been as much fun for her to have to carry around 2 urns.
No, definitely not. So let's go back and circle back and
I weekend at Bernie's plus one.
oh yeah, that was still
Exactly.
just one. So let's circle back a little bit. So, you know, people I'm sure are wondering, you know, how can a gallbladder do this? You know, what's going on? Well, it just so happens that the gallbladder can affect the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is actually a major nerve that actually helps control heart rate.
Right.
So what happened, from what we can understand, again, we're not doctors, you know, we've gone through A&P and anatomy and physiology. We understand a lot of the basics and stuff like that, where pieces of the body are, you know, where the gallbladder is located, you know, it's attached to the liver.
Well,
The liver is
and
pretty
pause
large.
for just 1 second as well. So another thing a lot of people don't understand. Yes, the gallbladder is just a little piece that comes off of the liver, and it filters the fats. It filters the fats out of your body through your intestines, and it helps to regulate that food. That's why most people that have pain related to their gallbladder when they have gallstones is after they've eaten a very fatty meal. And that includes like fried foods, a
Right.
very fatty meals, not always with hot stuff like spice, but some do have the reaction from spice. But then generally, when it reacts to that, you get the pain down here on the lower abdomen, or not the lower abdomen, the upper abdomen
Yeah.
of the right side of your body. That's where most of the pain comes from. Now, I'm going to backtrack real quick again. And that is that I had a very similar pain to this a week prior. And the same tightness around the chest, under my breast area, above my breast area, into my back. But I had severe belching. Like I was burping and burping and burping and burping. So I did go look up, is burping a symptom of gallbladder? And where would you get the pain? And everything said you'll get the pain on the right side. It's generally right after you eat. And so we had a major tornado storm coming in, and we had to move a big giant Boss grill from our deck, and we put it up 3 small steps into our covered porch, and to, you know, hopefully keep it from having any
Yeah,
damage
just
or
get out of the
anything.
elements.
And so I was lifting one end of it. My husband was lifting the other end, the heavier end. So I had to go up one set of stairs, which you have more leverage because it's down low, and then up to the second step, and then the third one. And that sucker was heavier than shit. And I did struggle and strain to lift it up and pick it up in there. So after 2 days of major pain and belching, I ignored it. And I looked at what I had eaten, and I was like, well, the only thing that I ate that was different than my husband is I ate some cantaloupe that was in the fridge that was, I can't think, borderline ready to be tossed out. And so I started doing that self-diagnosis. I said, well, the pain is probably from straining the muscles up here, because the last step I had to use all upper body strength. I couldn't use my legs or anything because it was so far
It was
up.
too high. Yeah.
Yeah. And the door was too skinny for my husband to come through and get it up for me. And so I wrote off the pain to straining probably my muscles right there. And then I wrote off all the belching and pain that I probably ate cantaloupe that was a little bit maybe on the need to go side. So probably caused fermentation a little bit and caused gas and caused the belching. So I even said that weekend, because it had gone on from Friday night, Saturday till Sunday night. And Sunday night, I said, if this is still going on in the morning, I'm going to urgent care.
Right.
Because after 48 hours and it's not stopping, I probably should go see urgent care. By middle of the night, Sunday night, it stopped. It went away. It never came back. And it didn't come back again until that Thursday night.
Right.
So I even looked up gallbladder symptoms, and the only symptom that says occasionally can have belching, but I didn't have any of the symptoms that said gallbladder.
Right.
I really didn't. So that is a big reason why we're talking about this publicly, because if you have symptoms similar to mine and not to yours, and I'll explain why my symptoms were different, and we figured that out with the doctor later, but here's the reason why. So, okay, now continue on with the gallbladder.
So like I said, it can affect the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve controls heart rate. So the most we can configure is, because the gallbladder was inflamed, and they identified, and he was saying he used a silver dollar as his way of identifying how big the gallstone was. So we're talking silver dollar. So basically, to me, that would mean basically like a golf ball. So it was a really big stone.
Yeah, even
And
the doctor said it was like one of the largest he's ever seen.
So it was pressing a lot and really displacing things. And so it was able to put pressure on the vagus nerve, and that is what caused, and they call it vaguing out. So she had a vagal episode, and she vagued out, and that's what caused her heart to actually come to a point where it stopped.
Right. So it puts that pressure on the vagus nerve, which starts affecting your heart rate, and the pain was so harsh, and with the inflammation of the organ and the distension of the organ, it was pressing down on all of that so severely that it caused me to vague out.
So, like I said, timeline, we left the house at about 1. We were 15 minutes is all it takes tops to get to the ER. We were in the ER in a room by 1:30 at the absolute latest. Already had EKG done, already had line in and blood drawn, already starting to work things. 2:30-ish is about when she vagued out, and so it was, I don't know, probably got to the point about 6 o'clock thereabouts.
Yeah.
And they started talking, okay, she's going to be admitted. 6:30 is what they call the no-fly zone. So basically at 6:30, they're getting ready for shift change.
And this is AM, by the way.
AM, yeah. So 6:30, they call it the no-fly zone down there, because at that point they're starting to prep for shift change. So if you're going to be admitted out of the ER, you're going to stay in the ER till shift change is done, and then they'll move you up. So about 6 o'clock-ish is, when I'm normally leaving for work. That's what time I actually would be getting up and heading out the door for work and stuff like that. So we were talking, and we're like, okay, well, we're stable. We understand what's going on. We have a good idea of things. They're going to have a surgeon come in and talk to her. They're going to still double check with the cardiologist, make sure everything's good to go with the heart. There's no other issues.
Well, they were ordering that had to be cleared by the cardiologist. And the last thing that the cardiologist had to do is order an echo and have an echocardiogram done. And that gives a full picture of what your heart is doing. It tells them that your heart is functioning, your heart rate is correct, because you can't base everything on a heart rate and that, you know, you flatline for a second and your blood pressure. They have to actually watch your heart, and it's a
Right,
very
so-
quick test.
Yeah, and again, it's done with an ultrasound. They sit there and they get pictures of, you know, what the blood flow is looking like, how the valves are responding.
Yeah, are they
what-
opening and shutting the
yeah,
way they're supposed to?
Is the ventricles in the atriums are actually contracting the way they're supposed to? You know, how
Is it
is there actually doing what it's supposed to go and move the blood
Actually,
the way it's supposed to? Yeah, it's kind of, it's not all in the same. It
it's
doesn't all
not
go
like
once.
this. It's
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. People don't
actually
realize
there's
that.
there's four chambers.
4 chambers, and they all.
We're not going to give you a whole anatomy lesson.
Right. So, you know, so at that point there, we're like, okay, she knew I had a lot going on, so I went and I left for a little while and dealt with work and let them know what was going on.
Yeah, I sent him. I'm like, you need to either go get your laptop or go finish something because you need to. I still care about his job, and he's not going to get fired over any of this. But I still wanted. My philosophy was, I'm like, I don't want you just handing it over to somebody else because then they're going to take all the credit. You worked really hard on it.
Work with a good team. I knew that wouldn't happen, but yeah.
But I'm concerned.
Right. But also, you know, the dogs had been locked up for quite a while and stuff like that. So, you know, there were a few things. So we were able to go and make things, make arrangements so that my work knew what was going on. I talked to them and made sure everything for what I was working on was handed off, and we were in good shape.
Well, and my mother lives with us, as we've talked about before. My mom lives with us, and we take care of her. So he also wanted to make sure she was taken care of. She had food if she needed something. And I had talked to my mom on the phone. I had talked to my children on the phone. So, and I was really having a difficult time sleeping. So he was also hoping that maybe if he stepped out for a little bit, I would doze off and try to sleep a little bit. So yeah, it was important to take care of those personal things as well. And so he did.
Yeah. And so by the time I got back, you know, it was a few hours. But it got all of those things.
Yeah, because he got. Funny thing is, I said just go straight to work. So he did. He went straight to work, and he was 3/4 of the way there, and realized I don't have my cat card. So
how do they do that?
Yeah. Wait. Do that again. Oh, I didn't.
It doesn't work right.
Yeah, I didn't put it on you. Do it again.
You know, you see the comedians do that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He
realizes like, well, wait a second, I'm almost to work, and
because the plan was to go to work, take care of what you needed at work, and then run to the house and then come back.
Right.
So instead, 3/4 of the way, he had to run back to the house.
Because I didn't have my ID, so I couldn't get to work.
Yeah, and we're 40 minutes from work from our house. And from the hospital, it's probably about a half hour to work.
Yeah, about that.
And give or take. So it added a little time to the run around.
A little bit longer of a trip than what we had planned. But
that's okay.
But we got all that taken care of, and I got back and get up to her room and that. And I wasn't in her room all that long.
You said about 30 or 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, because she had actually dozed off and that. So I gotten back there, and it wasn't too long later, and cardiologist came in and talked to her. And actually, even before that, the attending for the hospitalist stopped in and said, okay, well, the cardiologist is going to stop in, and then the surgeon is going to stop in, and they all did. Cardiologist got everything done before they actually even had the echo done. The surgeon was in to talk to you.
Well, and before they had finished the echo, the cardiologist had already signed off on surgery, which made the general surgeon a little bit irritated. He's like, how did they sign off on surgery when they hadn't even done the echo?
When the echo hadn't been complete yet. But everybody was quite confident that it was not a cardiac piece.
Look at this. If you're walking down Hollywood and there are neon signs, XXX neon signs, probably an adult store. All the signs
likely, right.
direct to this is where this is at. So at this point in time, we had a big neon X over my gallbladder
Yep,
and a bunch of neon arrowed signs pointing at the gallbladder.
exactly.
By all
What an
accounts,
analogy.
by all accounts, that's where the adult bookstore was being
Right.
held, was
Yeah,
in my
and
gallbladder.
You're here. And
Yeah.
you're here.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a quick feed. Just come on in.
So from 1 o'clock in the morning, leaving the house, by 5:30 that night, she was in the ER having
Well, I wasn't in the ER. I was in the OR.
You were in the OR having your gallbladder removed. So it was
Well, and you skipped over the whole part with the general surgeon, though. The general surgeon.
That's
my part of
not
the story.
mine.
Yeah, so I'll tell that story in a second. Okay, so now you've heard the whole story. I'm now in surgery and Steve is waiting for surgery. Now, Donna, now that you've heard the whole story and all the neon signs, what do you feel now? I'm talking.
Okay, one more time. What?
I said, so now that you've heard the whole story from the start to the finish,
What are your thoughts? What
are your thoughts there?
You know, the last 2 years, I have a completely different mindset about life and how we live.
Especially the last year.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I view things differently. I believe everything that happens to us, cliche, but it's a lesson, whether it's a warning, a preparation, how important it is to take care of our mind, body, and spirit, and to listen to our bodies. We never know when it's our time. And I personally have adapted. Life is too short to not do the things that make us happy.
Right.
And going
not to take
through all
things
of
for
this,
granted, not to take life for granted.
Yeah. I mean, this is how
you cut out. Of course, right at a perfect time, and she cuts out.
And service cuts.
Okay, well, she might come back. She's still on the line, so if you come back, just holler in. We might lose her. Who knows? But yeah, there she is. There she is. We lost you.
Here I am. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. One split area drop down.
So yeah, we definitely can't take life for granted.
Right. How did you feel when you walked into your house when you came home?
Oh, I was so grateful. I was
everything smelled different, looked different.
It did.
You probably looked at the dishes in the sink and go,
I didn't care. I was so grateful to be home, and I was so grateful for my dogs, and I was so grateful to have my husband, who was so amazing, and I was so grateful for I was so very grateful for everything that I have and everything that I've been given, and so very grateful for the fact that I have a chance to look at life in a different way and look at the things that I have ignored, look at the things that I need to work on harder, and put action to it, not just words, but actions to it. And you know, I've been given a second chance here, because I mean, I could have flatlined and never came back.
Possible, very possible.
You know,
right. And you could have gone to sleep and never woke up.
Right. If I hadn't listened to that, I could have just gone to sleep and finally fallen asleep and just never woke up.
Well, and you could have gotten discharged from the hospital before you had the major, and it happened here at
Walking
the
down the
house.
stairs, you know?
And then
Right.
what would we have done? I mean, there's, I work 40 minutes from the house. Your mom is upstairs. You've got the dogs here. They can't dial 911. They
Right.
can't tell me something's wrong.
Right.
So if that had happened and it had been, 5 hours later, literally, I would have already been on the way to work.
I'm seriously contemplating on getting one of those life alert because I'm single. I live by myself and I manage a self-storage facility that's behind a locked gate.
Yeah.
And if something ever happened to me, whether it's a friend or the police or ambulance or firemen that have to like this to me, what if I can't get up to answer the phone? So I'm really looking into those life alert bracelets. It doesn't have to be
Something,
chunky
yeah.
and
Yes. And we often think about those things that that's for old people. That's for my mom's 84. That's for her. That's not for me. I'm 54. I don't need that. That's cheesy. I mean, I have a watch that has but it doesn't have the alert ability where if I have something happen where it's immediately call 911 or anything. My mom does on hers. It'll put out an alert. But yeah, I mean, you think about those things and it makes you think about what you have. And I mean, I was still not good. I was still not feeling good. I was very dizzy, very nauseous, went to bed when I finally came home. And it was a couple days when I got up to let the dogs out when my husband was sleeping in the middle of the night. And I had gotten up and he stayed home with me for several days. But I went and I went outside and it was super early morning hours and the dogs were out going to the bathroom and I just stood on my railing looking out to my pool, my backyard, and remembering the day that we found this house and came in it and just said a really heartfelt prayer thanking God for all the gifts I have in my life, my closest friends, Donna, Kimberly, Kristen, and my family and my children, Shane, Andy, Sam, my husband, my mom, my brother. And I thanked him for all the gifts I have.
And gifts too doesn't mean monetary things.
No.
It's just their presence, people being in our lives.
Right.
And the fact that your mom here and living with you and you guys can take care of each other. I'm about ready to enter a parking garage.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was one of the most I mean, like, I did not feel very well the next day, but it was the next day that I hauled my butt up the stairs to sit with my mom. And it was not comfortable. And I've only been able to make it up and down those stairs now, like once or twice with now I'm fine. But the other day I went up with my mom and we took breakfast up to mom and we all three ate breakfast with my mom upstairs. But on our way down, Steve carried the tray down and he was gone. And a couple minutes later, he hears me telling Charlie, go get daddy, go get daddy. And I got nauseous and dizzy on the stairs and I sat straight down on the stairs and then I butt moved down the stairs and Steve got there and she went and got him and my service dog is amazing and he came and he helped me off the stairs. But I said, well, I sat as soon as I started feeling nauseous and dizzy, I sat straight down and I had a drain in, so that caused a little pain. I was still having enough pain where it was causing me a little bit of issues, but anyway, we will finish up the last little bit of this. We got 15 minutes. But Donna, yeah, I am so grateful, and I'm so grateful for our friendship, and I
Me too.
can't wait to see you. I will see you in a little over a month. Um,
Yeah.
and we are going to make it a weekend at Bernie's Ashes edition. Um,
Yeah, that'll be fun. And thank you, Steve. Thank you, Q, for your help.
Of course.
And yeah, I mean, and you're a great storyteller because you're able to make me feel like I went through this whole thing with the both of you guys. Very detailed, and you did an awesome job. And I love you guys both so much, and very appreciative. And thank you.
now go win some money for our weekend.
I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay.
All right.
All right. I'll
love
talk to you later.
All right.
Bye. Love you too.
Bye,
Bye.
Donna.
Bye,
Bye.
Steve.
Bye.
Okay, so we have the surgery, and let's see, we had surgery at about 5:30. You said I went into surgery,
It's
and
supposed to be about
an
an
hour.
hour. It's supposed to be an hour, and it ended up being
Now,
longer.
were you there, or you ran to go right at first? You ran to go take food to mom right when I went into surgery, or right before?
Just, yeah,
right before. I mean, we said goodbye, and then I went up, and
yeah, and I took off and ran back to the house because again, it had been a while since the dogs have been out. Been a while since mom had gotten anything, so I went to check on everybody, make sure everything was good to go.
Okay, so for that moment, I'm going to pause, and I'm going to go back to the story of when the doctor came in.
Yep.
The surgeon came in. So that they were actually in the room doing the echo, or getting ready to start the echo. They hadn't started it yet, right when the general surgeon came in. But he had already gotten the report that I was cleared for surgery. So the first thing that irritated him was that I was cleared for surgery from the cardiologist when they hadn't even done the echo yet. So he was a little bit irritated with that. But then he asked me what's going on. That always is an irritation when a doctor walks in and says, "So what's going on?" Like he doesn't know anything. So I tell him, and he said, "Well, where are you feeling your pain?" And where and I tell him I'm feeling the pain. It's like a belt wrapped around my chest, below and above my breast line, and like somebody is just cranking that thing in as tight. What are those ones for a fence?
Yeah, just a fence puller, fence
Yeah,
stretcher.
and they just keep ranking it until it's so tight that it can't move anymore. I said, "That's what it feels like." He's like, "So you don't have any pain on your right?" I said, "Nope, no pain on my right." And he's like, "And no pain on your abdomen?" I said, "Nope, no pain on." And he goes, "Well, I'm just not convinced this is your gallbladder." And he's like, "Yeah, I saw the CT says that you have gallstone. And the one of them kind of looks big. I can't really tell. You're not really going to tell because the ultrasound and the CT kind of can be deceiving." And he's like, "So it might be a lot smaller than it looks like, but I'm not convinced it's the gallbladder."
He wasn't convinced that the gallbladder is what was causing the vagal episode.
The heart rate.
That's where he was really concerned. He admitted that the gallbladder probably needed to be pulled because it was inflamed. There were definitely stones there, so there's definitely issues. But he wasn't convinced that was what was causing the vagal episode.
Well, he wasn't even convinced it was a vagal episode. He was
not at that point. Yeah,
he was not convinced that it was. He said, "I think this has something to do with your heart, and I'm concerned about having you on surgery and on the table, and your heart stops."
He goes, "I can fix your gallbladder. I can't fix your heart."
Yeah, that
was a comment that he made.
Was his comment.
Right.
And then I said, "Well, all the signs are pointing in the gallbladder." He said, "Well, maybe." And then he says, "Are you aware that you have RSV?" Which, you want to explain that?
Yeah, RSV, I don't remember exactly.
Respiratory
something or other virus. I don't remember exactly what the S is. What it is, it describes the cell that it is created from the virus. Is what
right. That's basically what. So and I said, "Oh, okay. I didn't know that." And he said, "Well, you have RSV, so that's respiratory. And he's like, does it hurt when you cough? And for the third time now, I had told him I haven't had any symptoms and I'm not coughing. But then he asked me, does the pain come when I cough? And I said, well, I'm not coughing, so no. Because he's like, well, it could be pulmonary. It could be in my lungs. This
Right.
pain could be coming from my lungs because I have RSV. And I'm like, well, the test for that was a stick up your nose like they do with COVID or whatever. And I said, well, it could be a false negative.
Well, and actually
Or
should be a false positive.
I meant false positive. Could be a false positive. And he looks at me and he says, there's no such thing as a false positive. And I was like, okay, I know that's bullshit. Do you know that that's bullshit?
He didn't like the fact that you are a medically trained individual, and I think that was part of his attitude.
Yeah. He definitely had an attitude. And he says, well, where is the pain exactly? So I tell him again, he goes, so you're not having any pain on your, and I literally said, do you want me to lie to you and tell you I have pain on my right when I don't have any pain on my right? And he's like, well, generally the reason why you have pain on your right and these symptoms come up is after you've eaten, it inflames the gallbladder and then it causes the pressure and you get the pain on your right-hand side. And I said, I can explain probably the reason I have not gotten those type of symptoms is because the gallbladder is affected by fatty foods and and don't judge me by my size, bitches. But that's generally the reason why people feel that such severe pain is after they eat. And a lot of people that have gallbladder issues and they feel it is overeating. It's one of the things I read about, overeating and a lot of fatty foods and greasy foods or fried foods. And that's basically not in my diet. I rarely eat any of that. A lot of people have these symptoms after they eat bacon.
Yeah, you were raised Seventh Day, so you do not eat pork.
I don't eat pork.
And yes, for those that we've had this so many times, bacon is pork. I don't know how many people have said, "Oh, but it's bacon." It's pork.
Like, it's still pork.
Okay. Anyways,
so I have a visceral reaction in my stomach already if there's pork in something because I get sick from it because I've just never eaten it. So I do have issues with that. So I don't eat it. I don't eat a lot of fatty foods. I don't eat a lot of red meat. I eat very little red meat. It's more occasional. I do know I have anemia because I don't eat a lot of red meat. And so we deal with that in other ways. And I do eat it. But I, for the most part, eat hamburger mixed in stuff. So I can't really taste it. And it's because I just don't like it. And I don't eat a lot of fatty foods. I don't eat a lot of fried foods. Very rarely do I eat any kind of fast food. So I don't eat the types of foods that cause most of the reactions with the gallbladder. And I eat very, very tiny quantities of food. I eat very small portions of food. So when I explained that to him, and I was getting what Steve goes, you're being, after he left, he's like, you were being a bit combative. And I was like, was I combative or defensive? And he's like, you thought about it. And he said, yeah, you were being defensive. I said, well, I was defending my life here because he was insinuating and said it several times. This could be very dangerous if it's really your heart and not your gallbladder. This could be really dangerous if the RSV affects you because I have to put you under anesthesia. You will have a breathing tube, all those things. So if you don't react well, I don't want you dying on my table because it really is your heart. I don't want you dying on my table because your respiratory can't handle
RSV related.
Yeah, your respiratory can't handle the anesthesia. And I said, well, I don't want to go home and die from something when the other two things are pointing that it's my gallbladder, and the other thing is telling me that I don't have any symptoms. So I'm going to pretend I don't have it. And as far as I'm concerned, it was a false positive, which is a thing. And then, so as the doctor was walking out of the room, I thought he was out of the room. I said, well, he's an asshole. I said, I hope he's a better surgeon than he is a doctor of bedside manners, because he's a dick. And later, after surgery, I will tell you that one of the nurses came in and she was giggling at me and she goes, oh, by the way, you do know the doctor heard you call him an asshole. And I said, oh, he did? And she goes, yeah, he literally was walking and he heard you because you weren't quiet. And he stopped. And the nurse with him stopped. And I think for a split second, he might have contemplated turning around and coming back in and saying, I'm not going to do surgery. And I, for a brief moment, did think about, I don't know if I want him doing surgery, you know, but then I've thought about it because I do have a medical background, that a lot of doctors I've met are assholes and arrogant, and they think they know more than everyone else in the room. But is he a good surgeon?
Right.
You know, and
that's what counts.
Quite a bit
at that point.
Right. That's what counts more. And quite a bit arrogant doctors can be very, very good surgeons. So, he left and I voiced my opinion, and who I was voicing it to was the girls doing the echo. And they were like, I'm so sorry. I've heard he's a really good surgeon, but yeah, a lot of doctors, I said, well, you know, I've worked in this field. I know a lot of doctors they don't have the best bedside manner. They can be kind of assholes, arrogant or whatever. But as long as he's a good surgeon, that's what I care about more than him being nice, you know, and placating me or anything like that. I just want him to be a good doctor. I don't care about the rest. So, needless to say, he was an excellent doctor, and he turned around or stopped, did not turn around, did not come back in the room. I didn't find out until later from my other nurse that he heard me and paused. And she even said, he probably stopped for a second and contemplated it, and then thought for a second, you know, that what you did was you hit him in an area where most doctors do not get called out by patients for their bedside manner.
No, they don't.
And for being a dick or being an asshole. Most don't hear that. They don't get that information. So they just are full of themselves and do their own thing, and they don't worry about whether or not they offended the person or whatever. And I am grateful. He was a great doctor. I didn't see him until the next day after, and he came in and did rounds, and he was really, really sweet and really nice when he came back and saw me the next day. You weren't there when he came back.
No, I again, dogs at the house, mom's at the house, so went back and made sure they were all taken care of and stuff like that. So,
and then I went back to sleep, and I woke up to Steve being there, and I was like, how long have you been here? He's like 30, 40 minutes. And I was like, oh, why didn't you wait? He's like, no, I wasn't going to wake you. You were sleeping so good. I just wanted to let you sleep. And so that was Friday.
No, Friday was surgery.
That's what I'm saying. Friday was surgery. This was Saturday. By Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock, I was being released and got to go home.
Yep.
And then it was a few days of quite a bit of pain. I was put on some Norcos. I don't like how they make me feel. I have to take anti-nausea when I take them because they make me very nauseous. So I slept for several days, just barely did anything. They did make me eat the hospital. I had to eat and keep food down before they would let me go home. So what was that like, Steve? That was That was quite
Oh, that
funny,
was
I
that
thought.
that was funny because they went and brought in a plate for her and stuff like that, and we opened up, and what is it? It's a hamburger.
And I mean, it's a nasty.
It was a plain, not a cheeseburger,
No
just
cheese
just a hamburger. Yes, there was lettuce and there was tomato that you could put on it, but it was just
and pickles.
a hamburger.
And there was some ketchup and mustard.
Mhm. Well, luckily, when she had gotten up there after surgery, she hadn't eaten all day. So she was back in from surgery and stuff like that, and they were able to go and bring in a tray again, and it was just a turkey sandwich, you know, that had been put together and stuff like that. So that was still there. So
And that was just plain bread with some turkey slices, and you had a mayonnaise and mustard
yeah,
thing that you could put on the bread.
Yep.
So it worked out because I made myself a turkey sandwich. I put the mayo on the bread, I put some mustard on the bread, and I put the lettuce and tomato. And then Steve ate the burger
Yep.
with half of my lettuce and half of a tomato. And so we shared the two between us. And in the turkey sandwich, I ate 3/4 of it. I couldn't
Right.
eat the whole turkey sandwich.
but that was the thing. You had to be able to eat and keep it down, and then they could release you. And so,
And then the
that was
doctor
ticket.
came in to tell me about the surgery, and he's like, "Wow, that Steve wasn't there." And he said that was the biggest. He's like, that gallstone was hard. What do they call it? Calcified. And he's like, it was the size of a golf ball. He's like, it was the largest, one of the largest that he'd ever had to deal with. So I'm sure they had to break that up. They did orthoscopic, laparoscopic. I mean, and so there was 4 holes that they put, one in the belly button, and they had to open the one in the belly button quite large because they have to have a place for it to come out. And then there was 3 other ones. So I imagine one was for the scope tool, one was for the cauterizing, and the other one was for whatever.
Yeah.
I have the very small little wounds. The largest one is the one on the belly button area. And then I had a drain that was in that I had to carry around with me. I kept it in my pocket, and I had to dump the fluids, and we had to record how much fluid. Big chunk of blood with a tail on it ended up sitting in there for the longest time. So I called it my blood fish. And I said, this was my fluid fish tank and my little blood fish. Don't mess with my little blood fish. It goes in my pocket. My husband was laughing at, you got a blood fish. So, and then I had to go back to the doctor on Monday for a recheck, Tuesday, to get my JP drain taken out. And we went, and they said, no, too much fluid still coming out. We're not taking it out till Friday. So we're going to move your post-op surgery appointment to Friday and take the drain out on Friday. Come back in for that. And I came back in on Friday, and they took the drain out, and whew, I had a vagal episode then.
And he said that happens sometimes.
He said it happens sometimes, and I was prepared. I knew it was going to hurt. People had said it was going to hurt. It was going to be uncomfortable, whatever. And he clipped that thing and grabbed it. 2 minutes, inpatient, just 2 minutes. You're fine. And he grabbed that thing and pulled that tube. I was like, oh, I had, the pain was super quick, but then I got real dizzy and nauseous, and I did throw up a little bit. It was very little, but very dizzy. Took a little while for me to get back on my feet, and wheeled out to the car and went home, and I went right back to bed.
Yep.
And now it's been a little over a week, and I feel much better. Still have a little pain every now and then. I stopped taking the pain meds pretty much day 2 because I couldn't stand how they made me feel. And I'm back on the mend and recovering. And now it's reevaluating life and what changes I need to make. I've lost 10 pounds. which I was already trying to work on. So I'm going to continue working on that. My thyroid makes that very hard, but other issues, but I'm going to work harder at getting healthier because this was a good wake up call. I want to be healthier. I want to live much longer. My mom's 84, and at the rate I'm going, I won't live to what my mom's age is. So I have to work harder at making myself healthier and trying to get this weight off. So, yeah, I'm going to work on that and work on doing better things for myself. What about you? Have you had any like wake up calls from this incident?
Yeah. And I've been trying to sit there and look at where I'm at and where I want to be and how things are and stuff like that, and working to eat better and more healthy and I've really worked a lot to try and cut out some of the stuff that I really don't need.
And even for the both of us, this also leaves me with the open mind of saying, I'm not going to feel as guilty about having you or me be accountable to each other.
Mhm.
Like, don't just let the person have the things that they aren't good for them or let them do the things that aren't good for them. Being more forceful with the, no, I love soda. So I'm going to be cutting the soda out. And I have already cut it down to once a day. If I have one, I can't have another one. Once they're gone, I really want to try to only have them on the occasion when you're out somewhere and you can have a soda. But not having it in the house where it's accessible all the time, having alternative drinks that are healthier for us and making them. So all the things, needless to say, the biggest, most important thing is, thank you, Steve. Thank you, my husband. I love you so very much. And I
Love you too, babe.
appreciate you being there for me.
Of course.
And, any last words? Last advice to people out there?
Listen, be present, and don't be overly macho or whatever, and make smart decisions on what's going on.
Yeah. Well, for myself, I'm going to say don't be complacent. Listen to your body. Listen to the little voice in your head. If something's telling you you need to have this looked at, go have it looked at. Because it might have just been my gallbladder. And just also, I learned when they were in surgery that my stomach was also distended and inflamed, and he cleaned out my stomach as well. And he said it was very small which was obvious that I eat very little. But it was definitely something. So I'm going to tell you that you might think it's something and it's something else. Or you could think that it's something minor and it can affect you majorly. So listen to your body, listen to your inner voice. And, just if you have some medical experience or knowledge, don't self-diagnose yourself. Go and have things checked out and do what's best for your future, and trust the people around you. Trust those around you, honey. Trust them that they want the best for you too, so you don't have to go through things alone. If you have friends or family out there and you need them to be your support system to make life changes, if that's what it is, but also that when you're going through something, that them to listen to you and them to trust that there's something wrong when there might be something wrong. But most importantly, don't be complacent and don't think that you got this and everything's fine. Go take care of yourself. And with that, I am out. I will see you again tomorrow, 7 to 8:30, if I can get Rumble to work properly. But I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. And with that, I am so thankful for my life and for being here. And I'm thankful for you watching. And I hope you have a pleasant day and be grateful for what you do have. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you for watching GurlTauX live broadcast, which airs weekdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't forget to send in your Dear Margaret questions. Then join us for our opinion-based answers. We love having you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night.